What is up, everyone? Volathis here, and we're continuing the FanFest vlogs. This covers, of course, day one. A lot of things went on there. The event started at 10 a.m. Now, I got down there with my brother about 8:30 towards 9. A lot of people were already there. The people that, were working with this event told us you can't stay in the hallways, stuff like that. You need to spread out. And there was just a lot of people. And then, of course, 10 o'clock hit, and the swarm, so to speak, entered. People were already lining up for the merch, and they were told, that the event hadn't even started. They're not even opening till after the keynotes. And people said, I know that, I'm just going to stand there. I'll talk more about the merch because of what happened the second day. At one point, I tried to get in the merch line, saw the length, and I said, no, I'm done. And then, of course, there was the debacle with about not even halfway through the day, they said you can only get one item of each that you ordered. And then towards the end of the day, they basically said they were done. No more people could get in line. They were only going to finish those that were already in line. And even at the end of the day, there were still people waiting in line. So the next thing we're going to be talking about here is obviously the opening keynote. Yoshi P came out, Koji Fox is there, and of course we got the announcement for the new expansion, Stormblood. This was basically followed up with a trailer. This is portrayed by the Warrior of Light, who is now a monk, and then another mysterious girl is presented to us, and the Warrior of Light is meditating, so to speak, on the hand of Ralgar, the god of destruction. And then they have sort of a sparring match between each other. A lot of speculation, of course. Instantly, these start coming to mind. Is the girl a monk? Is she something else? I'm actually going to make a react video on that, maybe break it down a little further, so I'm not really going to go into a whole lot of detail. It's a beautiful trailer, though. And then we jumped straight into the expansion because, that's one of the things we expected from this. So, of course, we're going to Alamigo. That's been confirmed at this point. This is going to involve around 3 main points. The first one is, can Alamigo break away from the Garlean Empire? Because they have been ruled by them for many years. And one of the points that was stressed is you have 2 generations at this point. You have the ones that were basically removed while the Garleans took over. And you have the ones that have been living under their rule forever and may not mind that in a sense because they didn't experience that. They were born into this. The second one is we have basically going to be our opposing force, which is the Xenos, who is of the Garlean 12th Empire. They have the ones that have been stationed there. And then the third one is the Warrior of Light and the Alamegan Resistance. A lot of what we've been told is that, or actually we haven't been told, a lot of the theories that we're going to be butting heads a lot like we did in Ishgard, because some people are going to know us, some aren't. And we've already heard some hesitation already in the story, if you haven't been paying attention to it, that they don't, want the Scions and the Warrior in Light really involved in that. And then they talked about, we saw some artwork here. I don't have any real screenshots or anything for you guys, but there a lot in my notes here because I did take some pictures, but like I said, I didn't upload them because people are paying for those streams, but a lot of it was like an upside down pyramid, a rising half bridge, some cathedral-ish structure, a gigantic tree. It makes me think of like a world tree, and sort of like castles and very large buildings built into mountainsides or on top of hills. So the next thing is the features involved in this. The level cap is going to be raised to 70. We got a little preview of possible future artifact gear. It looked like for Black Mage, White Mage, and Dark Knight. Maybe Paladin. I don't imagine it was a Paladin because it was very dark armor, so it made me think of the Dark Knight. And then, of course, we're getting the battle system revamped. That's going to be what they discussed about is the additional skills, like if you're a tank, the provoke and all that. It's now going to be more of an umbrella thing. You're basically going to pick which ones you want, and if you switch from tank to tank, those aren't going to change. They're going to be the same additional skills, so that transfers all around. Which, to me, that also sounds like probably those skills that get tossed around a lot are probably going to get removed, and they're simply going to be put into that new bubble. The other thing is they're going to be removing ineffective and useless skills. So these are probably, skills that they don't think are going to be there. That's going to free up our bars, probably make room for new skills. I don't think they confirm that. I think that just imply a new expansion. I don't think we're going to get expansion, not getting any more new skills. They talked about new areas again. We got a preview of a walkthrough of some of those areas in a video. And a lot of this is, we had preview that showed the giant statue of the God of Destruction again. And it looks like possibly the main city where the Almegan resistance, and I'm assuming is going to be our new home city, so to speak. Some Almegan structures, the Aetherites, they said they're going to be a lot more different. We saw the wall and Black Shroud that separates Alamigo. And a lot of this is going to have Garland influence. It's also going to have both the Alamigan and the Garland, since they've been there a while, so they've merged a lot together. There was a forest / kind of swamp area. They wanted to, stress to us that this isn't going to be all desert. Alamigo is not what we think it is. It's not just all desert. There's going to be lush forest and everything like that. And finally, there was like a bridge. They mentioned that, of course, with every expansion, we're going to get new primals. A lot of what they said would be original to 14. I take that as Ravana and stuff like that, and Bismarck, they're not technically original. They've been in the story before. Eventually, I don't know if this means in this expansion, I would like to see completely new primals that are 100% original to the Final Fantasy series. Will that ever happen? I don't know. Do I expect it to happen soon? I do not. Then they said there's going to be challenging new dungeons. Of course, this is 4-man content. They said, the current dungeons have been kind of stale in a certain degree, so they're going to be hopefully mixing that up. Of course, they said there's going to be high-end new raids. They didn't say what it's going to be. They just said we're getting new raids. They also discussed that possibly this time around, I believe it's our even number patches, we get new raids. What they want to do on the odd is make even more difficult raids in between. Of course, we're going to get new 25-man raids, the new Alliance raids again. They talked about the Forbidden Land of Eureka. They said this is modeled more what they've been learning from Diadem. And they also said that they're potentially going to be using this. I don't know if they mentioned it then or if they mentioned it later in the day, but they mentioned that this is going to be probably where we're going to be going to complete more our relics and the other weapons. Another reason to go into that sort of content. And they also said they're going to be spawning notorious monsters that may only spawn every 72 hours. So that, if I'm not mistaken, that is, kind of basically the hunts. So we're probably going to get new hunts in that area. They said there would be new gear recipes, of course, new gear and recipes. They talked about the item inventory expansion. We're going to get more inventory. They said they want to do as much as possible. What they're thinking about doing is maybe doing one at the beginning of the expansion, and as they get deeper, if the servers, they're going to implement the second half. Just make sure the servers can handle it and it goes through smoothly. And then they said, there'd be new areas, of course, involved in that. And then there would be changes to the Windows minimum specs. They said they were going to be raising it, of course, with this expansion. I believe they also said at this point, if you're on a 32-bit system, they're not ending the support, but they strongly emphasize that you start updating your PC, get on 64-bit, and that links into what I'm going to talk about next. Of course, the biggest thing, they're ending PlayStation 3 support. The second Stormblood launches, you will not be able to play it on PlayStation 3. It's completely done. You will have support through the current patches up to Stormblood, but once Stormblood is active, you will no longer be able to play the game. They are going to be launching another upgrade campaign to get you on PlayStation 4. Now, what I wanted to talk about earlier with the 32-bit, I take this as you might get another expansion through Stormblood. 32-bit will probably, you know, they'll still support, but it sounds like to me that at the end of Stormblood, when we have a new expansion, they may end it altogether. But I can't confirm that. That's how I'm taking it. I can completely be wrong. So I guess the phrase is a grain of salt. They didn't say it, but they strongly said you should update. So to me, that means, you know, they're trying to get away from that, just like they tried to get away from PlayStation 3. But I mean, an expansion usually runs 2 years, so that gives plenty of time to consider that. And then next we had the development panel. I can't remember his name. I just remember as Mr. Ozma because that's what he designed. They went into detail what he does. He does a lot of the battles and everything. Talked about how before this he wasn't even a video game programmer. He used to program, but he wasn't a game programmer. And then talked about the various projects he's worked on. They explained how in the Leviathan fight, which I found really interesting. While to us it looks like the ship tilts, in reality the ship doesn't move at all. The sky and the sea tilt, and you're pulled by an invisible force. That is very interesting. They basically said, you know, it's almost impossible to program that, so they programmed it that way. That was really interesting to me, and I thought it was amazing. Just how, you know, they couldn't do it the way they wanted to, but they found a workaround to it. Mr. Ozma explained that he has basically a 60-second rule. He wants to be able to explain it. Basically, when he comes up with a fight, they talked about the planning and all that. Basically, with explaining a fight, should be able to get it out in 60 seconds. Should sound original. Should be unique. There should be something unique about that battle. That's another interesting thing, you know, I find with this company, how they handle everything. And then they showed off some of the previous plans for Ozma and teased that there was an Ozma Extreme, and they said if they wanted, they would put an Ozma Extreme in us. It went into some kind of like a 3D star shape, but more pointed ends, and it basically wiped the raid. I'm guessing like some big ability. And then after that, they had the please look forward to it. Before this event launched, they had questions that you could put in. They also had one for the art, but the question they had a big bag. They had Yoshi P answer some questions. Some of them were from the crowd, so they did a lot of that. One of the things was like, I believe it was in this, or it might have been the live where it was asking if Sleipnir would fly. They said yes, it's in the works. Big thing was against the Eggy Glamour. Basically, they said they didn't have anything ready. It might be in 3.5, but it's not going to be involving the Eggies. They're actually going to be messing with the carbuncles. You're going to be able to color them. And once they get that working, they're going to look into the Eggies. They said, though, the Eggy glamour system is going to be a little bit different. Some of the primals, for example, like Sephiroth, can be used on all three types because each Eggy has a particular type. But examples like Ramu, he's only going to be available for the Garuda. So they're wanting to make sure they can get the carbuncle working, and then they're going to work over to the other Eggies. I don't think they confirmed that the Eggy glamour in general would be ready in 3.5, but that's the next time we're going to be looking forward to this. They asked about world PvP. They asked, you know, well, what do you guys want? Do you want PvP servers, or basically that's what Yoshi P has in mind, is just making separate PvP servers. I like the idea. If you go back to WoW, they have areas that are designated strictly for PvP. The second you enter those zones, you're in PvP mode. I think that's another way you can do it without converting servers to PvP only. In this game, you know, I would find it a little bit more difficult because in a full PvP server, especially with story and everything, with how Final Fantasy works, there's no factions. So if you go to a PvP only world, everyone in that game is going to be your enemy. Some people that would be fun. I find it would be very hard to do story content because a lot of the story takes you out of the cities, which I assume the cities would still be safeguards. I would prefer just a PvP area, kind of like they did in the Wolf's Den with the dueling, but on a more massive scale, like a PvP island or something like that. On top of that, those PvP areas you could contribute without PvPing. Mostly that meant just gathering stuff and hoping you didn't get caught. They talked about the glamour on the Alex Savage gear, saying, you know, why can't I dye it? And they said, well, this time around, you know, we made it so Savage gear stood out more besides just being dyeable. They made it look different, and they just didn't have enough time to do both, so they decided, you know, just make it look different. They may change that in the future, adding on the dyes, but that means more work for the development team, so we'll see. They also mentioned, you know, are we going to ever get a curly hairstyle? A very long one. Most common phrases that Yoshi P basically used during this day is either please look forward to it or we need a PlayStation 5. This was one of those examples, and then there was one about a glamour, talking about they used an example of armor on the arm, if it had 3 circles, if you wanted, you know, all 3 dots to be colored, or if each dot should be a different circle, because the glamour system, you know, you only can cover so much. He said if you want all 3 circles to be the same color, that can be worked in, but if you want them all 3 different, you need a PlayStation 5. And then the next thing moved into the costume contest. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. I think I came in towards the end with the top 20. The person that ultimately won was someone who was dressed as basically the Dragoon artifact armor. Honestly, they did a great job. The mask lit up. Another one that stood out was there was a Black Mage PvP set. It was the wolf one, and their mask was magnetic, could be removed. There were some other ones that looked pretty good. So I didn't pay a whole lot of attention with that one. And then they closed the night with a piano concert. They had Susan Calloway, who's done some of the voices for some of the songs there. Soken came out for briefly, did some songs on the piano. For one of the songs, I forget which area it is, but basically for the bass he put a box and it showed a clip of him kicking a box. And I thought that was really funny and unique style and approach to that to make the sound. I don't know if that's how they recorded it, but that's what they did for the concert, and it was fun. I did some events myself in between. There's a lot, about an hour between most events at least, so you know, if you weren't already in line, I think if I do this next year, I will simply just do the events while the main events go on. There was at least a few events, you know, I could have just wandered off and did my own thing. I did the Lance event where you basically had this like foam rocking you through it at Nidhogg's mouth, hoping to go in. And I believe that day they had it wasn't the Tri-Roulette, it was the Alliance battle. Basically, you fought a Proto Ultima. It was not a bad fight, pretty easy. I mean, with an Alliance, we got on our first try. It's like an Ultima fight. You got to learn how to dodge. That's the gist of it. I was actually next to Miztech, and I didn't even know it. I thought she looked familiar. I thought it was Miztech. Never asked. Discovered, thanks to Twitter, because someone else took a photo with her. It was actually her. Just goes to show I should ask questions. I didn't do any more events. There was also a Tri-Roulette. I didn't do that. I went the next day, and I think they said you needed a full party. Didn't have a full party, so I said whatever. There was a feast one for PvP. They also had for the mini games. These would be basically like something you would see in the Gold Saucer. There was a Typhoon one where you run in a circle, and then you have to stop. And then there's a red square, and then the rest of the 3. It was divided into 4 were green. If you were in the red, you were out. I don't know how long it continues, maybe until there was only 1 left, or after so many tries. And then there was a basketball game where it had like gobbies, and you were throwing the Mandragos. They were the balls into the hoop. And then there was a Illuminati where you would shoot as many as you are, kind of portraying, I guess, a machinist, if you'd like, in that regards. Basically one of those shoot games where you knock over the like plates and stuff like that. So it was a good day. Stayed for pretty much all of it, taking breaks here and there. They provided food at the event, as well as in the hotel. There was tons of restaurants to go to if you wanted to go somewhere. That wraps up the first day. Still have the second day to talk about. I'll go into more detail with the merch. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything that they covered in the first day if you were there. Are you guys excited for Stormblood? I definitely am. Definitely feel free to speculate maybe where I went wrong in this or anything like that. Or if you agree with my thoughts or anything. There was a lot of stuff that was covered in both days in general. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe to my channel, stay updated. It's the fastest way to get one of my videos, especially my new ones. And it's been a pleasure, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.